Warning, sensitive imagery. Parts of this video exposes open wounds.
That deer got my baby girl pretty good. Turn around, baby. Okay, we need to get to the vet, baby. That's pretty deep. This is actually the video recording for my baby girl's wound that she suffered after being in an incident with a deer, a mama deer, who was defending her precious little fawn. My baby girl and I were just kind of curious about it. It's a little baby deer. The mama deer came over and defended in defense of her deer, and unfortunately wounded my baby girl. So she had a big gash. It was a big open wound here.
After just 3.5 weeks, my dog's wound is all healed. Vet recommended sutures with cost of $630, not required. This video highlights the process and progress of closing an open dog wound with 4 key supplies: antibacterial ointment, antiseptic solution, non-stick adhesive bandage, and dog shears. Each video was recorded separately to document the wound healing process. As such, there will be repetitive content. As soon as I get my fur baby girl home, I knew that it was paramount that I clean and apply some sort of antibacterial agent to prevent infection, which was my biggest concern.
See that skin? It's been pulled off.
Using a wet paper towel, I began to clean all of the dirt from around the wound and all of the visible debris inside the wound. After a quick pass of removing the dirt and debris and having the initial assessment of the wound, it was clear that the laceration did not go below the skin and that the muscle tissue was not damaged.
It looks pretty bad. They need stitches.
I then treated it with a 3-way antibacterial cream all around the outside of the wound and inside the wound. I wanted to make sure that no infection started. To further protect the wound from infection, I attempted the process of covering it with a bandage. I use the word attempted because with an ever-moving target, it made the task a tad bit challenging. Later, I adopted a more structured process for healing the wound. Ultimately, I was able to secure a bandage over my fur baby girl's wound by using a non-stick sterile gauze and a waterproof adhesive.
Okay, so she's temporarily bandaged up until we can get her to a vet.
After the initial prep for a vet visit, it was confirmed that an appointment was not available until the next day. To avoid infection, I gathered resources and supplies to proceed with steps to clean and treat the wound properly. Even though I knew intuitively how to care for my fur baby girl's wound in its initial stages, cleaning the wound, clearing it from debris, applying antibacterial ointment, applying some sort of coverage or bandage, you had to be very careful to make sure that the wound did not become infected. And so that was still my greatest fear, making sure that my fur baby girl's wound healed properly and in a timely manner.
Making sure that's nice and clean. No hair in there.
Looking at the steps to care for the wound, to prevent infections, I just felt so much more comfortable.
Oh. Sorry, baby.
Even with clear steps for cleaning and treating the wound, I still encountered a few mishaps along the way. If the wound did become infected, of course that poses more concerns. Now it's no longer just a surgery to stitch the wound. It is now also what impact it has on my fur baby girl overall. So as a pet parent, I was very nervous about that. My fur baby girl had been such a trooper through all of this, so it was time for a treat break.
Baby. With that one? So good, baby girl. Good girl.
Ever since my little man Max joined our family, everywhere my fur baby girl is, that's where he wants to be. And this time is no exception. He's been so supportive.
Good girl.
Always by her side, watching over her like a protective big brother and a good boy.
One for you too, little Maxim. Good boy.
To discourage my fur baby girl from licking her wound after rebandaging, I placed a cone over her head. She didn't like that very much. I offered treats to distract and appease the patient.
My little baby girl is doing really good. She's been resting, and there's no bleeding at the site.
Her appetite was good. She ate her complete dinner, and she appeared to be unaffected by the day's events. After dinner, she chose to lay in her kennel and was resting comfortably. Unfortunately, the bandage continued to slip. Because she wasn't biting at the bandage, I decided to remove the cone while she rested. The next morning, it was time to get her to the vet. While my fur baby girl's wound was not on a large portion of her body, and there was no visible pus, redness, or puffiness, the injury did fully penetrate the skin. I felt that was enough to warrant a vet visit.
She's doing fine. She's not lumping anything, so she seems to be doing just fine. But you want to get her checked out. Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, thanks.
During my consultation with the vet, he recommended the surgical procedure of sutures for treating the wound. He confirmed the wound would in fact heal on its own with proper care in about 2 months. I made the daunting decision to take on the task of treating the wound on my own. As a pet parent, you can imagine that I was very apprehensive about the prospect of having sole responsibility for bringing my fur baby girl's wound to healing. With all of that in mind, if anything happened, I knew that I could just simply go back to the vet. Once I made the decision to care for the wound on my own, I gathered supplies and other resources and began a more structured process for healing the wound. The next step was to determine which procedure I would use based on which felt most comfortable and easiest to execute successfully.
I wipe it clean with warm water. I'm going to do another pass with warm water. The skin's been torn. The good thing is it doesn't go down through to the bone.
The vet recommended sutures or stitches, which is a surgical procedure with a $630 cost.
Although it has been torn here, so we're going to be pushing this area back together.
I researched, considered, and purchased skin staples, but in the end, I just couldn't go through with it.
After we clean it, and we'll be using strips.
In the end, I decided on the least evasive and most comfortable alternative, which was adhesive tape, also known as sticky strips.
Wound closer strips to close it. And we should be fine. Other than that, once you've shaved everything, you can really see what you're working with. And I think she's going to be okay. Just wiping the area again before we get going and before we put the antiseptic on. Very gentle. As you can see, very little bleeding there, which is a good thing. Opening up the wound here, getting that all cleaned. Make sure the area around it is really clean. She's being very good. She's such a precious girl. As you can see, very little to no blood, so that's a good thing. Now we're going to use our antiseptic cleaning for the inside of the wound before we suture.
During the first week, I treated the wound daily with both an antiseptic solution inside and out and an antibacterial ointment outside the edge of the wound.
Iodine. I'm going to clean it with this. We're going to go on the inside here, and we're going to clean all the inside.
Continued use of the ointment kept the wound too moist to heal. After the first week, I treated the wound solely with the antiseptic solution, iodine, around the edges only until it scabbed over.
Okay, babe. We're going to get every area. Oh, baby.
Unfortunately, due to the location of the wound, the closure strips proved ineffective. I used the non-adhesive gauze pads for the first few days, but then abandoned use due to slipping issues. Ultimately, I used a non-stick, strong adhesive Band-Aid for the rest of the duration, which worked perfectly. It stayed firmly in place during walks, and it offered enough space to allow the wound to breathe and heal very quickly. I conducted daily exams to monitor wound for infection and overall healing progress.
Sit, babe. Good girl. There we go. She's such a good girl. We're just going to check on her little wound. She has a habit of putting her little tail up kind of over the wound sometimes. Right now it was like a Band-Aid on it, because anytime we're out and about I put a Band-Aid on it. So I'm just going to remove that so we can just check the status of her wound and the healing. Just make sure I'm holding the skin as I pull it off. There we go. So now we can just examine the actual wound and see how it's doing, and it's healing quite nicely. You can just really see that has flattened out. Everything has flattened out there, which is beautiful. And then that's being, even if I touch it, as you can see, it's kind of scabbing over. Doesn't bother her a bit. I'm going to shave some more here so that when I put the Band-Aid on it when she's out and about, it comes off easily. As you can see, she's very calm. That's a good girl. She's very calm. As you can see, she's just, you can go ahead and lay back, baby. As you can see, she just kind of lays back. It doesn't really bother her whatsoever. I made the decision not to have this sutured. I went to a vet, mainly just to use it as a consultation, because I wanted to understand from him if a suture was required in order for it to heal. He confirmed that it was not, that it would certainly heal on its own, but that you did have to monitor it to make sure it didn't get infected. But it's perfectly fine. So I'm just very pleased at the overall outcome and very pleased at where we're going. I felt much more comfortable having that consultation with the vet, knowing that what I was using to ensure there was no infection was good. Now, right now, when she's out and about, I put a Band-Aid over it, but otherwise, if she's just home, I leave it open so that it can air out. She doesn't lick it or anything of that nature. The only time she bothers it if there is a Band-Aid on it and she wants it off. But otherwise, she doesn't lick or mess with the wound. So I'm very pleased with the healing. It's healing quite nicely, and we'll just keep an eye on it. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to focus on shaving a little bit more here around her little wound area so that when we put the Band-Aid on, it's easier to pull off. And again, we're just using the simple doggy shears, and doesn't hurt her a bit. Here we go. And I'm just getting as far away as I can to allow for room for the Band-Aid. There we go. And as you can see, she's totally relaxed. Doesn't bother her whatsoever. So shave these away. There we go. I'm just going to get the other side here too a little bit more. Comes up very easily. I'm just going to pull a little bit more off here so that that's not hanging. It's a little weird just hanging there. And as you can see again, this does not bother my baby girl in the least. She's doing just fine. She's such a good girl. She's doing just fine. She's nice and comfortable. And so I think that's more than enough to accompany the length of the Band-Aid. So that's really all you need to pull off there and off the shaded area, because then the Band-Aid comes out to about right here. As far as the adhesive comes out about right here. You got your little wound here. And again, I only do this, I only have the Band-Aid on when she's out and about, because she still likes to roll around in the grass, which is wet. And again, because this wound doesn't impact her energy or her play level at all, for her it's really inconsequential at this point. So we're just making sure that it keeps on its way. The leg is not encumbering her in any way whatsoever. As far as being infected, I don't think I need to worry about that much anymore. We're all set with the shaving, and that's really all we need to do today. So you're all set, baby girl. You did a good job. You're all set, baby girl. You can go now if you'd like. So we're here to examine the status of my baby girl's wound that she received from a mama deer in defense of her little fawn. So as you can see, this is actually just an update as of 6 days ago. And this is the current status. And again, as you can see, she's not affected by this at all. It's my baby girl. Good girl. You're doing so good. So this is just 6 days ago from the last time we examined the wound. And as you can see, it's actually healed. So this is just that one little dot that's left there. And that is no bigger than probably a little mosquito bite. And it is actually, it has been scarred over. And as you can see, the whole other area, it has been healed. This is actually the final video for my baby girl's wound.
My fur baby girl was wounded by a mother deer on June 29th. By July 16th, the wound had scabbed over and closed. By July 23rd, the small scab that remained falls off.
I'm happy to report baby girl is all healed up. So about 3.5 weeks, and really after about 2.5 weeks, she was all healed. The wound had scabbed over, had closed out and scabbed over. But again, there was just a tiny mosquito-sized scab that remained, and that has since come off. So if you see this line here, that's kind of where the line of the
Day 3,
the
hanging
was,
skin
because her
dies,
skin was
clipped
torn.
with scissors. Day 6, healing begins. Day 13, wound begins to flatten and close. Day 16, approximately 2.5 weeks, wound closes and scabs over. Day 22, approximately 3 weeks, only a small scab remains.
Inside this little part was where the little last scab was. This was an open wound and didn't use stitches, which were recommended. We were informed it would take about 2 months for an open healed wound to close, and it just healed on its own very quickly. My little baby girl's wound is all healed, so it's all gone. She's out playing today, and this will be one of her first days without a Band-Aid. She didn't bite on it or lick on it or any of that. She was just a perfect girl, and as a result of that, it healed very quickly, and now she can get on with her regular activities, and she can get back into the water, which is something she loves.
Like me, my fur baby girl has a healthy and curious fascination about nature. It really brings me joy to see that my fur baby girl continues to have natural and harmless engagements and encounters with nature, and that this incident with the deer did not deter her one bit.
No,